Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a new year. Happy Eclipse Day. I know that I'll be out there at about 1 o'clock, ready and willing to watch history take place. But I wanted to welcome you all to another year for some of you and a new experience for the rest of you. This is CUIN 8380. Research methods. For the purpose of this semester, this course will be academic writing and research. Over the course of the year, we've learned a lot in the doctorate program and made some decisions about how this research methods course should be and what it should look like for students in this upcoming year. So there are going to be a few differences in terms of a couple of ways in which students will work through assignments, being that we'll have students from cohort 2 who have been with us for a year and cohort 3 who are new to our institution and new to our program. So let's start with going over the syllabus. So there are many learning objectives that we have outlined for the course. Primarily, though, this course is going to be about educational research literacy. And as many of you know about literacy, literacy is something that takes skill and effort. And so oftentimes we talk about educational research, and students take research courses and educational research courses in particular. But do not have some of the foundational or base knowledge necessary to be able to navigate what good research is and what not so good research is. And so as you all are embarking on this journey in terms of your own dissertation research, it's really important that we help you all to build up that skill set where you become educated consumers of educational research. And so the learning objectives for this course are that students will utilize the process and approach for academic writing. Okay. So we're going to go through many different exercises that are going to be tied to academic writing. There are going to be a number of literature review exercises. I know that cohort 2 has been working on their literature review for quite some time. And with cohort 3, this may be a new experience for you, or at least one you may not have revisited in a while. But we're going to work through that. Apply style guide rules with at least 80% accuracy, and that will be using the style APA. And it's something that we're moving in the direction of making sure that all students become very proficient in the use of APA. It can be a frustrating process. It was frustrating for me when I was in my doctorate program, but it is a necessary process. There is no educational research or writing of research without having some proficient use and knowledge with regards to APA. And so grades in this course with regards to writing assignments will be heavily focused on APA. We'll be heavily focused on APA. And there's a portion in the syllabus that I'm going to ask you all to read over with regards to what plagiarism is, which is really important because APA helps to prevent that from happening. There will be a number of APA quizzes as well, and that is to strengthen your knowledge with regards to the use of APA. Understand the role and function of the literature review in educational research. So the literature review is the foundation. Okay, it provides you with the knowledge necessary to be able to embark upon an investigation of a topic of interest. Why is that? Well, because once you move to conduct a literature review, you are reviewing all of the body of knowledge that exists on that topic. And you become proficient in knowing more about that topic. And so that must happen before you're able to conduct your own research in any area of interest to you. Typically we start off with a hypothesis or this kind of overarching burning question that we have. But then from there, we have to become more knowledgeable about that. And you do that by conducting a literature review or also known as a review of the literature. Okay. Locate and interpret primary and secondary sources of information. This is really important because as practitioners, okay, as teachers, as administrators, as practitioners, we focus heavily and we receive a lot of information from secondary sources, which are typically trade journals or journals that are professional journals, but journals that speak to practice. And so that is one area of that's one area where you can acquire information. Okay. But it's really important that we seek out the sources of information. Okay. Secondary journals are written in a secondary information sources are written in such a way that a layperson can understand the information that's being provided. And so most of the time, our interest in a topic or information gathering will begin with a secondary journal. But we have to move towards a research journal or a primary source to be able to see the knowledge based on studies, based on investigations into the topic. So we'll talk a lot about that, and we'll move into that, especially in the first four chapters of Shank and Brown, which many of you should have already read or are reading this week. And so we delve into that, and then you will also be able to see, at least during week one, you'll be able to compare a primary journal article to a secondary journal article. And Shank and Brown has great resources as a part of the disc that's provided for the text, where there are where they provide you with examples of primary and secondary sources. Summarize and synthesize findings of the published literature. So as I mentioned earlier, there are going to be a number of literature review assignments that you will embark on and that you will complete. And that is the sole purpose of that is for you to be able to learn how to synthesize findings of research. Prepare a review of literature using focused topic sentences, coherent paragraphs, and numerous primary sources. So this goes to the mechanics of a literature review, the parts that are involved, and again, you will be scaffolded through this process. But it is something that's necessary. It's the chapter 2 of your dissertation, and again, for those that are already working on it, you are already well aware of this process. But this course will help you to hone in on some of that, and to also better prepare you for the revision aspect of what you will need to know for your dissertations. And for those that are, again, new to this or haven't seen it in a while, this will help you to also strengthen your skill set. Prepare a draft of method section pertaining to dissertation topic or area of research interest. So you all will prepare a method section, okay? And the method section deals with your prescribed way in which that you're going to collect data, analyze data for your research topic. So we're going to get into the various areas that are included in a method section, and that will be a part of your final paper as well. So for you all, again, so in those that have been with us for a while, those in cohort 2, you will have the ability to add to this portion, to your dissertation. And then for those that are new to the program, you will be able to see what that looks like, construct a method section, and we're going to go just through data collection, okay, just through data collection, because in Research Methods 2 next semester, that's when we will talk about data analysis and the reporting of findings, okay. Describe unintentional and intentional plagiarism. So as I mentioned, there is a huge section of the syllabus dedicated to this, which explains what plagiarism is, okay? And I expect everyone to read through that and become familiar with what it is and what it isn't, okay? Identify the strengths and weaknesses in his or her writing by becoming a critical reader of writing. How else can you improve writing unless you peer review others' writing? So that way you see how others write. Um, it also helps you to identify areas in your own writing that may need to be addressed. When I was going through this process, I was able to establish or create my own um, editing checklist, so my personal editing checklist, and you all will do the same in this course as well. And so in order to be a critical reader of writing, you're going to read a number of articles for this course, whether if that's through the Shank and Brown text or if that's via your literature review. You're going to learn how to break down those articles and to assess whether or not the research is strong, okay, or rigorous, or whether it isn't. And so that's really important, again, in terms of becoming an educated consumer of educational research. Through a review of educational research, identify the strengths and weaknesses by becoming an educated consumer of peer-reviewed research. And so that ties in with number 9. As I mentioned, you're going to be looking at a number of primary sources, which are typically 99% of the time peer-reviewed. You will also read a number of articles again through the Shank and Brown text, and so you will definitely be able to understand whether or not an article is rigorous or not. And again, it's really important that you're able to identify that because, as I mentioned earlier, a number of times when we're looking for research, we typically start at secondary sources, but we need to move to primary sources. Revise and reshape writing and improve ideas, organization, language use, vocabulary, and mechanics. So that's just a part of the writing process. So we're going to go through that. It will be a part of the rubrics for each of your writing assignments. And in the Shank and Brown text, there is much discussed about educational research literacy and the writing process. So prerequisite learning for the course is to kind of, be familiar somewhat with APA. If you haven't used it in a while or if you haven't used it at all, the APA manual is required text for this course. And so it's something that I would expect that you would look through and scan through just to get somewhat familiar with the text. And also knowledge of the MD Anderson Library website. Okay. And so there is a plethora of resources available to students via the library website and the library itself. Sean Valancourt is the librarian assigned to the College of Education. And so we work closely with Mr. Valancourt to ensure that students have the resources that they need. He's dedicated just to you. So if you have any questions, if you're trying to find research in any area, he's there to help you with that. Okay. All righty. Okay. So, I see a mistake in the syllabus. So, I also have here the CITI training initiative. So it's a prerequisite of the course for just the cohort. For just cohort 2, they've been through this process. But for cohort 3, it is something that you will do as an assignment for the course. Okay, an assignment for the course. So, so that should not be there, but that's okay. We're moving along. Required text. So there are 4 required texts: APA manual, okay, which I mentioned earlier, and then also the student workbook. Okay, that's important, the student workbook, because you're going to be taking a number of quizzes, and there are student exercises or workbook exercises associated with the sections of the manual that you can kind of look through and learn about and practice in terms of your own knowledge about APA. And the quizzes will be something that will be tied to different sections of the APA manual. So the workbook is very helpful in terms of helping you to become more proficient in the use of APA. The Cresswell text. So research design, qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods approaches. Great text, seminal researcher, seminal text for any research course. And so, so this is the text that we will be using. And then the Shank Brown Exploring Educational Research Literacy. It's a book that I use in my doctorate program. It's a great text in terms of breaking down educational research, and also in helping students become, again, educated, really great educated consumers of educational research. It really helps to have this knowledge in order to improve your own writing, especially being that we're focusing on academic writing. So there are a number of recommended reading here. You kind of look through the list of books. I do want to point out that the Anne Lamott book, Bird by Bird, great book if you haven't read that. It is about the process of writing and how difficult that can be. You know, as you move forward with writing your dissertation, as some students can already attest to, you know, it's not an easy process. Not an easy process, but your faculty are here to support you, and your peers, those that are taking courses with you, are also there to help you and assist you as well. So Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird, great book. I highly recommend that. Okay, so course evaluation. Now we get into the meat and potatoes of the syllabus. So there are a number of assignments. There will be written assignments, interactive discussion board, which I'll get into in a moment, APA assessments, learning community and peer review groups, CITI training, IRB application, and dispositions. So the written assignments, as I mentioned earlier, there will be a number of literature review assignments and written assignments in the form of your final paper that you will have to do for this course. There is going to be a heavy focus on APA. APA as a format. APA is typically seen as just as a format for writing, but it is a format that adds to the face validity of your research. If you took the time to ensure that your APA is correct, then more than likely you're just meticulous in terms of your research methods, in terms of how you conducted your literature review. So it goes to the face validity of your research. So it's more than just the format. And so there will be a heavy focus on that with regards to the grading of the written assignments. The interactive discussion board. So that is going to be a little bit different for our cohort 2 students. You know, in the past, students had to well, typically when you engage or participate with discussion board, you have to of course, there's a question that's there, or there's a prompt that's there, and you respond to the prompt. But this time, what I would like to see happen is that each person will post a video, okay, in response to the prompt. And so that would not have to be everyone each week. It will be one person each week who will post a video in response to the prompt, okay? And then everyone else will write, and then everyone else will respond normally by way of written responses, okay? And so there are a minimum of 3 entries in terms of the discussion board, okay? There's going to be your initial entry and then 2 response entries, okay? And so each week, the initial entry will be a video by one member of your learning community, okay? And so there is a list of the learning community members in each of your learning community groups in Blackboard. And so just in order of the names, okay, each week a person will provide a video, okay? So just as I'm providing a video here, this would be my response to, let's say this is week 1. I have the prompt, it's in my learning community discussion board, and I as a student am creating a video in response to the discussion board. Okay, and then my colleagues will then enter in written responses. So they will have an initial response, and then they will also enter in they will also add written responses. Okay. Next week, Julie will add a video, okay, as her initial response to next week's topic that's posted in the discussion board. And then I will just enter in written responses. Okay. The reason why I'm asking you all to do this is because you're in an online class setting. And so oftentimes you never get to meet your colleagues or your peers. You never get to interact with them in an in-person way. And so I want you all to get to at least be able to have a name with a face. And so I'm asking that each week you all rotate the role of submitting an initial response via video. Okay. And so an easy way to do that is to do a video, upload that to YouTube, and then send out the link or post the link rather to the discussion board. Okay. And that way I can view it. And your colleagues can view it, and then they can enter in their responses, and then that role will rotate. Okay, now there are a total of 10 interactive discussion boards, and there are typically 4 members per group, which means everyone will go twice. And so on those weeks where we may go over into a third week, into a third rotation rather, then I expect that the second year doctoral students will do that. Okay. And so if there are any questions or issues or concerns about the interactive discussion board, please let me know. Okay. A little different than what you typically do, but I want to add more of an interpersonal piece there with the inclusion of the video. Okay, so we've talked about APA assessments a little bit. So there will be 9 quizzes, and they will consist of 10 questions each, and they will all be multiple choice. And so you can drop I will drop the lowest grade on the quizzes. And typically in a doctorate program, you don't have quizzes. But in this case, I feel it's necessary to help you to become stronger and more proficient in the use of APA. Your learning community peer review groups, as I mentioned, your discussion boards will happen in your learning communities. So basically there are 4 members in each learning community. I think there's one that may have 3 members. But you will also use your learning community as a way to peer review your writing assignments. And so you will kind of divvy up into into groups of 2 or into partnerships of 2, and then from there you will review each other's writing. So that's all listed in the syllabus in terms of when to have the draft ready for your peer, when to receive the draft back from your peer with feedback, and then when to integrate that into the final assignment. That's all in the syllabus. Okay. CITI training will be an assignment for cohort 3 students, so our new incoming doctorate students, and then the IRB application will be for cohort 3. Okay, and so you do not have to officially submit an application. All of that depends on whether or not you've done your candidacy defense, as well as your proposal defense and your comprehensive exam. So typically all those things will not be completed until the spring, and that's when you will officially submit your IB application. But you will have to go through the process of doing basically a mock IRB app. And I know you did this last year, but being that it's a year later, you've made some changes to your research, you've added some things to it. We need to revisit that process. Dispositions. So dispositions, that pertains to professional attributes and attitudes and values. And so as educational leaders, it is imperative that we talk about dispositions, that we consider them in our everyday interactions with one another, with faculty, with staff. And so there are going to be a few assignments tied to dispositions. The first being a self-assessment that will happen week 2 or week 3, and that's also in the syllabus. So that will happen either week 2 or week 3. And so I want to kind of do it early on. So that's kind of a pre-assessment, and then there are going to be a couple of exercises that you will do, and then there will be a post-assessment. So dispositions will count for 10% of your overall grade. Please read through the portion about dispositions. It's something that is really important, as educational leaders. Um, there is a certain way to interact, as I mentioned earlier, to interact with one another, with faculty and with staff, but also how to model that behavior. And so it's something that we have to make sure that we hone for our students at any level, but especially at the doctorate level. And so it is aligned with the university student life policy. So please take some time to review that. Okay, so there's some great information here about key strategies for a good grade in the course. I'll read through that as well. Let's see, portion on plagiarism, and then we move into the course syllabus. So I'm not going to go through this step by step in terms of the assignments. I feel like it's pretty explicit in terms of the assignments. And so for those in cohort 2, you can tell that the syllabus is different than how I've done it in the past. But I want to make sure that I had everything in one place. And so in terms of Blackboard, what you will see is a folder for each week. The weeks will be the folders for each week will be released. Will be released. They will be released in a staggered release. So I'm not going to release them all up front, but we're going to kind of stagger the availability to those folders and to the assignments as well. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to clarify. Oh, yes. Okay, so in the month of October, the end of October, the beginning of November, I'll be at a few conferences. So I'll kind of be I will be out of town for those 2 events. And I have a couple of other projects that I'm working on. One is I have a couple of writing projects that I'm working on. One is a book chapter, and another one is actually a book. So I have some colleagues of mine, and I were we were offered a book contract by Sage, so on research methods, and so we will be tremendously busy with that this semester as well. However, you all are my top priority. Okay, and so with the busyness of the academic side of things for me, the best way to get in contact with me is for you to email, call. Feel free to call me, as well as stopping by my office. Okay, because as I mentioned earlier, I know that being that the program is online, that we rarely get a chance to interact with one another. However, I always welcome the ability to actually sit down and meet and talk with you all. So we will have a few meetings throughout the course of the semester, okay, that will take place. And so I'm working with Dr. Hutchison and with Dr. White, who are your program advisors, with regards to those meeting dates. I believe that September 30th will be the first meeting, and it will be the major meeting where we will all come together and talk about program requirements. We will also talk about your requirements in terms of social ed and literacy separately. So those meetings are really, really important. If you can attend those meetings, I highly recommend that you do so. I know that, the online program that you may have elected this program because of the convenience factor. I get that. But we cover some pretty important topics on those meetings that we have, on those meetings that we have, and we have very few of them. So so I will tell you, I highly recommend that you come out. We provide lunch, that you come out and you get to meet your colleagues, that you get to interact with Dr. Hutchinson and Dr. White and myself and learn more about the program and program requirements. I'm working on, and I do have a date listed here, I'm working on having Dr. Anthony Onwegbuzi come out and speak to students about research philosophy. So he was one of my mentors in my doctorate program, but he's also a similar researcher in terms of mixed methods research. And he's also one of my co-authors for the research book as well. But I have him listed as coming out on the coming out on the week of October 23rd. And so we're just trying to pin down a date that works for him. And so I will definitely let you know. This was the week that we originally identified. Okay. So we'll see. Fingers crossed that he will have the ability to come out and talk with us about research. Dr. Onwegbuzi, Dr. Cresswell, those are some similar authors in terms of mixed methods. You also will be reading some work by Dr. Combs, I believe, as well. So I want to do more in kind of having you all meet these researchers, so that way it's more than just folks who have written a book or someone that I'm referring to, but that you actually get to meet and talk and interact with folks that are on the front lines conducting this work and really influencing us and impacting us as educational practitioners. So, okay. Scrolling down. So I mentioned that I can be reached. I mentioned earlier that I can be reached via phone, email, or in person, but also I use Skype, okay, and Google Hangouts. I have my information there in the course syllabus about how to reach me with regards to Skype and Google Hangouts. And then there's some other information there that may be helpful to you in terms of campus resources and services, okay. So I'm excited. I'm excited to have you in this course. There are 27 students in this course, so there are many of you all. So I'm going to ask you to be patient with me in terms of the grading of assignments for the course. I've tried to work this out in such a way that I can provide timely feedback. But we're going to be doing some work in terms of having you all peer review one another first. Okay, so that way you all can become more knowledgeable about the peer review process, and it really helps with your overall improvement of your own writing. So I know this is a long video. I'm looking at 32 minutes and 49 seconds, but I want to make sure that I at least went over the course syllabus and had some time to talk to you about the course. So thank you so much for your time. And I hope you all have a great day and a great week and, of course, a great semester. Bye.